Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another Michael's Community Classroom. My name is Allie W. and I'm from Yarn Inspirations, and I will be helping out Tamara today on getting any questions that you might have. So if this is your first time joining us, just if you have questions that pop up throughout the chat or throughout the class, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll get to as many as we possibly can tonight. I'm really excited to get started here on a great new project. I was just saying before this that I think this is going to be what inspires me to pick up Tunisian as well. Perfect. Well, I think that's it for me. I will pass things over to you, Tamara.
All right, thanks so much. Hi, everybody, and welcome. As I said, I'm Tamara from Moogly, and today we are making this beautiful Tunisian simple stitch dishcloth. Nice long name, but a really simple project. And really, this is a wonderful first Tunisian project. So if you haven't made anything else in Tunisian, you're in the right place. This is really ideal. You can make it with any number of stitches. You can make it any number of rows. We're just basically making a square. So we're probably not going to make the full-size dishcloth tonight. I'm going to make it a little narrower so you can really get through all those steps, including our beginning row, our foundation row, and binding off. So let's talk a little bit about Tunisian. If you haven't done Tunisian crochet before, it's a really sort of interesting, almost combination of crochet and knitting, in that sometimes you just have one active loop and sometimes you have a whole bunch of loops on your hook. Because of that, you do need one special tool, and that is a Tunisian crochet hook. These come in a couple different forms. Sometimes you'll see it's a shorter hook with a long cord attached, or a short cord for that matter. Sometimes you'll see a long straight, basically it's like looks like a knitting needle, but it's got a crochet hook up here at the top. And it's usually got some sort of stopper at the end that's going to keep your loops from falling off. Kind of like, again, like you would have on a knitting needle. But you've got that hook at the other end, and you only need one of them. So if you do not have a Tunisian hook tonight, but you want to practice your Tunisian crochet, that's no problem. Go ahead and grab your usual J hook, that's what we're using tonight, or whatever hook you want to practice with that fits the yarn you've decided to play with tonight. And you want to pick one that, as long as possible, does have a straight shaft. So if it's sort of your standard Susan Bates hook that has the thumb grip in the middle, that's fine. But if it's one of those really bubbly hooks, that might not work as well. You just want to have as straight as possible for a little bit of length there, so you can get a few stitches on your hook and really start practicing the Tunisian stitches tonight, and give it a try until you need to necessarily invest in any new equipment. So in addition to the hook, of course, you need yarn, as always. Beyond that, though, it's just your standard crochet supplies. You know, scissors, yarn needles, stitch markers can all be handy with this. We're not going to be using stitch markers tonight, but if you wanted to do the cross stitch that we see in this pattern, you would need a yarn needle. That would be what you'd be cross stitching it on with. That cross stitching isn't a crochet stitch. It's literally just cross stitching like you would do with the fabric that you traditionally cross stitch on with all the little holes. Not sure how it's pronounced. I know it's spelled A-I-D-A. It's like Ada or Ida. I'm not actually sure how it's said, but you can cross stitch on Tunisian fabric. And that is one of the things that really made Tunisian fabric so popular several decades ago, is it was used as a background for cross stitching. So we can see that in the pattern that we've got for today, and a little sample that I've got here as well. So let's go ahead and bring in our other camera and take a closer look here at what we're working with. This right here is a different project that I just recently finished in Tunisian crochet. You can see it's white, so it doesn't show the stitches as well. I'm going to be using some colors to demonstrate with tonight. But you can kind of see how it makes little squares. And you can see there's the little dots there that make the little square. Perfect for cross stitching on, just like it was cross stitch fabric. So it is a really great and interesting way to make fabric, a little bit different. It tends to be a little bit thicker than crochet fabric. And it has also always worked from just one side. Unlike crochet or knitting, we won't be turning our work at all. We'll be working all from one side. So like I say, this was just another little project that I was working on that's very similar. And it features the Tunisian simple stitch, and that's the one we'll be working on tonight. And as I said, of course, we need yarn. So for this project, we'll be using Lily Sugar and Cream, which is such a great yarn to use for any sort of dishcloth or washcloth project you might have. So let me set that one aside. And I think this color is going to give us the best view here of our stitches. So to begin a Tunisian crochet project, we're going to start just like we start any crochet project. We need to put a slip knot on our hook. So I'm going to come in, a good 6 or 7 inches or so, and go ahead and put my slip knot on. We will be weaving in our ends for this just as we would with any other crochet or knitting project. So whatever suits the yarn you're using, however long you like to have your end to weave it in. After that, we do start by making chains, and these are standard crochet chains. So before we begin actually making those, a quick note about the hook itself. When you are starting out with this foundation chain, you might want to hold it like this if that's how you normally hold your hook. You might want to go overhand if that's how you normally hold your hook. But as we continue on and start making several rows, I find it is a lot easier to switch my hand to sort of the knife grip, or really more of how I would hold a knitting needle. It doesn't have to be fancy or anything like that, whatever is comfortable for your fingers and lets you sort of move that hook around. Left hand holds the hook, or excuse me, the yarn, just as it normally would. And of course, if you're left-handed, those are switched. So to begin, we're going to start by chaining 26. That would be for the full-size washcloth. I don't think I want to go full 26 today. I want to make a smaller swatch so that we can really demonstrate these rows and stitches without only working an inch or so of fabric. So if you are working with a smaller hook today, if you don't have the full-size Tunisian hook or the long length here, then you can just sort of crochet a length of chain here that is about as long as you've got the straight area for your hook, because we're going to need to fit all of this onto your hook. So if you're using your regular Susan Bates and you want to just maybe chain 8 or 10, that would be a good start. So we've got our little chain here. And like I say, for the full-size washcloth, you would start with a chain of 26, but I'm just going to start with a few here for our demonstration today. Before I continue on from there, I just want to make sure, are there any questions that I needed to answer right off the top?
We don't have any right now.
Excellent. Okay. So let's talk about working into those chains. Just like when we are crocheting, we're starting with a chain and then we're going to work back into those chains. Just like knitting, we're going to be picking up a stitch from each one of those stitches and putting it on our hook. When we work into this foundation chain, a lot of times, if you're familiar with crochet, you're used to working under those top 2 loops. I'm always a fan of working under that back hump. I just find it gives a better finished edge. For Tunisian crochet, you always want to work into that back hump. So if we look at the top of our chain again here, we can see there's the tops of our chains, those little V's all nested together, and we can just flip it right over and we see those back humps. I always think of them as the Loch Ness Monster humps peeking up above the water here. And those are what we're going to work into for our foundation chain here. So we've actually made the foundation chain. What we need to do now is called the forward pass. We're going to start by drawing up a loop in the second chain from the hook. Now, this is what's interesting too. Little difference. If you are used to crocheting, you're used to not counting the loop that's on your hook as a stitch. If you're used to knitting, you're used to counting all those loops as stitches. This one is a little bit more like knitting in that we're going to count all the loops on our hook as a stitch, including this one right here. But just like crochet, we need to skip the one closest to the hook, sort of like a little turning chain. So we've got the active loop on our hook. We're going to skip the next chain, and then we're going to go into the bump after that. So let's go ahead and bring it back to camera here, pull up a little closer. So I've got my loop. I'll skip this one and find the back hump, the very next chain. And I'm just going to insert my hook there like I normally would, and yarn over and pull up a loop. But instead of finishing a stitch, I'm just going to let that let that loop hang out right there on my hook. Then I'll go to the next chain. Go under that back hump, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And I like to just give my hook a little wiggle and make sure all my loops are about the same size. And then just continue on across. As you come to each chain, go under that back hump and pull up a loop. So, however many chains you made is the same number of loops you should have on your hook at the end. Because where we normally wouldn't count that one, we didn't actually make a chain, we are going to count it as a stitch, but then we skip that chain right there. So that is one of the easier things about Tunisian crochet. However many you chain is your total number of stitches. I need to pull up just a little bit more yarn here. There we go. So we continue on across here until we get all the way back down to that slip knot, just as you normally would when you're working to the chain. We're just not finishing any of those stitches. And again, this very first row that we're making right now, with our forward pass and our return pass, sometimes these are called the foundation row, depending on the pattern you're following and the author's terminology or the designer's terminology. And these are typically the same no matter what other stitches are being used in the rest of the pattern. For this, we're using the Tunisian simple stitch, which lives up to its name. It's a simple stitch. It's the easiest one. But even if you were doing something lacy or cabled or incredibly complicated, you're going to start off just like this. So after that, then we have our return pass. And I'm going onto the underneath hump. I just saw a question pop up. Are you going to the back loop? I am not going into the back loop. Let me pull out a couple of stitches here. You can see it's a little more work to frog. You have to pull them off the hook here, but then you can just pull those stitches out. But if we look at, let me pull it up close here. If we look at the top of the chain there, that's the front loop closest to me. That's the back loop furthest away. And if I flip the whole chain over, there's the underneath loop, sort of that third loop back here. So the ones that are all lined up straight when you flip over the chain. Those are the ones we want to work into for Tunisian. And frankly, I recommend working into them for most projects because I think it's going to give you a nicer bottom edge to your work. But that part is personal preference. So there we go. We have now worked and pulled up a loop in each of those chains except for that very last one we made. That's our little turning chain basically right there. And that is how we do the forward pass. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Flip the chain to catch that back bump. It's a great way to put it. So after we've done that forward pass, and now we've got as many loops on our hook as we did chains, as we made chains, we do the return pass. And I'm not going to turn the hook over. We're not going to work the other way. We're working back and forth all from this side. So the first thing we need to do is yarn over and chain one. So we yarn over and just pull that through that very first loop. Just like that. So we still have the same number of loops on our hook now. I'm going to pull that out and do it again. When I pull out my stitches, you'll notice I want to really take the time to put that loop back on my hook before I pull that one out. So sometimes if you need to pull back your work with Tunisian, it's easiest to pull back till you just have one active loop again. But to start our return pass, we yarn over and pull through just that first loop. And then we start working off our loops in pairs. When you crochet, we know you yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two. That's how we make a lot of those tall stitches. We're basically doing the same thing, working up our chain. So we yarn over and pull through two. Yarn over and pull through two. Yarn over and pull through two. And we keep doing that all the way across until we have just one chain left on our hook. Sometimes they want to be a little tight. You want to make sure you're making stitches that are comfortable for you, just like anytime you're dealing with your crochet gauge. But there we have our very first row of Tunisian crochet. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that it looks really holy and airy, right? What's with all these holes? When we saw the example here, a really solid fabric. Well, that all changes as you make the following rows. Because when we make the next row, normally when we crochet, we're kind of working right at the top of that stitch. When we make most Tunisian stitches, not all, but most Tunisian stitches, we're working down here in these loops. Let me pull this up really close right here. This right here is one stitch. You can see just like your kind of a standard single crochet, we've got those two vertical, that's the word I was looking for, the two vertical loops right there. Those are the ones we're mostly going to be focused on in Tunisian crochet. I also want you to notice, I'm going to go ahead and pull this hook out so I don't keep tapping it on the table here and get a little needle so it's a little easier to point out. Okay, so I want you to notice how this part of the loop right there, because this is all one loop, this part of the loop is sort of in front of these other strands. and this part of the loop is behind. So here is that front loop, and there is the one in back. And for the Tunisian simple stitch, we want to be going under that loop. They're just the ones in front. Different Tunisian stitches might have you go under that loop, or go all the way through, or go in between, different locations. For the Tunisian simple stitch, which is the most basic one, we want to be putting our hook under that loop right there. Okay, so hopefully that's a good close-up here. Let me put that needle down, get this yarn back on my hook. Let's talk about starting our first row of Tunisian simple stitch. This was all just sort of a foundation row, all the same, again, generally speaking, no matter the project you're working on, but now we're going to make the Tunisian simple stitch. Now, we talked about how, unlike usually in crochet, this loop on our hook is our first stitch. So that means we don't have to worry about making a first stitch right here. We can come over what would be the second stitch. So basically, because we've already got a loop on our hook, we skip over that stitch and come to the next one. Then we're going to insert our hook right under that loop I was showing you, the one right in front, the one closest to us that goes up into the top. We insert our hook right under that loop, yarn over, and pull that loop up. And give that a little jiggle if you like. And now we've got two loops on our hook. You can see how that fabric is starting to fill in. We go to the next stitch. Find that loop right in front. Insert the hook right under that loop. And you can see I use my nail, sort of push it right up over the hook there. That's how I do it. You can do it however works for you. Oop, yarn over. And pull up that loop. So now you see when we do that, how that sort of flattens out and fills in that fabric, creating that really, really sort of solid fabric that I think Tunisian is most known for. Like I say, there are things like Tunisian lace and cabling, but this sort of solid fabric is what most Tunisian designs are really going for. So then we find the next stitch. We look for those vertical stitches right there. We want to go under the one right in front of us, yarn over, and pull up our loop. So then we're going to continue doing this all the way across until we get to that very last stitch. And the very last stitch, we do want to handle just a little bit differently. Again, no matter what stitch we're making, here it's Tunisian simple stitch, it could be any of the other Tunisian stitches. When we get to the last stitch of a row, 9 times out of 10, we actually want to do something a little bit different that's going to give us a better left edge. So, or right edge if you're doing this left-handed. So I've pulled up the loops here for all the stitches except for that very last one right there. So I could keep doing the Tunisian simple stitch and just go under that front loop right there, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And once in a while, you might see it like that. But a better edge and a more solid edge to your project can be gotten if instead you work under both of those loops right here at the end. Just this very last stitch, we want to treat it a little bit differently. So instead of going under just that front loop, we're going to go under that one and the one behind it. But we want to do it sort of right along the edge there. Like so. And don't worry, I'll be showing all of these again. Then, just like the others, we still yarn over and pull up our loop, but it just gives us a nicer, more solid finished edge to our project if we do it that way. So if you were making something like a garment, they might specifically tell you not to do that stitch at the end, but generally speaking, most of the time, that's how your rows of Tunisian forward pass will end, is by going under both of those loops there at the end. So now we have all the loops right back on our hook. That was our Tunisian simple stitch forward pass. Now all that's left is the return pass. And the return pass is one of those things that, again, for most stitches will be the same, but there's lots of different colorwork techniques and other unique stitches that can definitely alter how you do the return pass. But for Tunisian simple stitch and most Tunisian stitches, it's the exact same return pass we did on our foundation row. First things first, we yarn over and pull through just one loop. That's basically our turning chain, although we're not turning. We don't want to turn, but we can think of that as that sort of doing the same job. It's our little ladder that lifts us up. And then after that, we just yarn over and pull through 2. yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, all the way until you get back down to the end and you just have that one active loop left on your hook. So that's why I was talking about if you, if you make a mistake or you realize you missed a stitch or whatever, you can try and sort of frog or pull out those stitches and replace the loop underneath on your hook as you go. But if you get stuck and, you don't want to try and do that, you need to pull out a bunch, you can just go ahead and frog it. But it's easier if you keep pulling it back until you get back down to just one loop to deal with and then start over again from there. So that was one row of Tunisian simple stitch. And again, you can see we're all doing it from the one side. We're not turning over our fabric at all. And you can see too, the contrast between how that first row looks with that really solid fabric and how the row we just made looks where it's kind of open and lacy. So from here, we just continue making these same stitches just like we did in row 2. So for this pattern, it says to keep working these rows until it's 8 inches long. But of course, if you wanted to make a scarf or something else, whatever you're making, you can keep going as long as you'd like. If you're making a little one like here, like if you've got one of the shorter hooks perhaps, and so you're just making a little sample today, you can make a little face scrubby or even a little coaster. So let's go ahead and keep practicing these stitches for a little bit, and then I will go over binding off and the cross stitching. But I want to do at least a couple more rows here so we can really get an idea of how it looks. So I've got my active loop on my hook here. Again, that is my first stitch, so I don't need to work into that one. I'm going to come right over there to that second stitch in the row. And for Tunisian simple stitch, I want to go under just the strand that's in front. Then we yarn over and pull up our loop. And just continue right on across. So I don't know if I missed any questions, but Allie, was there anything else that I might have missed?
I don't see any other questions at the moment.
It's a very quiet class. If you guys have questions or you need to see something over again, obviously I'm basically doing the same thing over and over again, but if there was one thing in particular, definitely let me know. When I get to the end of this row, I'll show you what the back looks like too. We want to see what the back of the fabric looks like since we're not seeing it while we're crocheting it. You can see I am about at the end here again. Here is that final stitch. Great question from Julia just came up. My swatch is curling. Is this normal? Yes. Tunisian is famous for its curling. So we can talk about things to help with that here at the end too. There's probably a good dozen, and I don't know that I even know all of them, but there are things that you can do to help with the curl. So once again, though, since we're at this final stitch, I want to go over this one more time here at least. You can go under just that loop there in front, but I recommend you go under that one. And then the one behind it, right there. So this is that last stitch on the left-hand side. We go under both of those loops right there on the side, yarn over and pull up our loop. So you can see it kind of looks on that side now like another row of crochet stitches, right? It's basically looks like a row of chains. So it's just a little bit better looking edge there than if you just work under that front loop and sort of leave that back one hanging out there. So let me pull that one out so we can see that one more time, because I do feel like that's probably the one that's hardest to see and a little bit different. So I'll ruffle it up a little bit so it's not already poked through. You can see we're crocheting along. We come to that end. We just want to make sure to go under both of those loops right along the left side there. Then we can yarn over and pull up under both of those loops. And now we should have the same number of loops there on our hook. Then our return pass, we'll yarn over and pull through just the first one, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2 all the way to the end. And yes, my foundation row would have had 9 chains since I have 9 loops on my hook. Remember, when we make chains, that loop on our hook doesn't count as a chain, but it does count as one of our stitches. So when we skip the first chain, it all works out. We're right back to that same number. Alrighty. So let's see. There we have our return pass. And when I turn it over, this is what it looks like from the back. You can see it looks significantly different from the back. It actually looks a lot like garter stitch or the, the backside of stockinette if you're a knitter. Much more, just totally different look. And as mentioned, curling. You can see this one, even though I've only done a few rows, it already does want to curl up quite a bit. So with Tunisian, there are several things you can do to help with the curling. Blocking is an easy one, especially if it's not a washcloth, something that perhaps, you're not going to wash and crumple up all the time, but something you might be able to block out and keep like a shawl, sort of keep blocked. Blocking can be a big help with that. Alternatively, rather, you can work a round of single crochet or a border of standard crochet stitches. When you come back around to that foundation row, you can see it's really easy to work just your standard crochet stitches into there for a border. And then beyond that, there are things you can do like a Tunisian purl stitch or some different stitches that you can throw in there, sort of like when you're making knit stockinette. Knit stockinette has the same sort of thing, wants to curl up the same way that Tunisian does. So a lot of times if you're working with stockinette and knit, you'll throw in a row of purl or 2 or 3 to help prevent the curling. So you can do the same thing with Tunisian. The other big thing I would say to help prevent curling with Tunisian is when you pull up those loops, make sure you're pulling them up nice and high. If you go in and pull these loops, don't pull these loops through nice and high. If you're keeping them really tight, you can see how that's going to keep the hook in front of your fabric. You want to make sure as you pull up those loops, you pull them up to the top of the fabric so that that's where your stitches are formed as you make them. And the other thing that I think is the easiest way to help prevent curling, maybe not 100%, but definitely the easiest way to tamp it down and to deal with some of the thickness of the fabric of Tunisian, is that you always want to use a bigger crochet hook than you normally would with that yarn. You'll notice that this Lily Sugar and Cream that I'm using here calls for normally an H hook, which is a 5mm, and this pattern calls for a 6mm crochet hook. So that's a full size up. It's still curling a little bit. If I wanted a fabric that was maybe a little looser, drapier, and didn't have the curl, I could keep going up in hook size. I could go up to a K or an L or even an M or an N with worsted weight yarns. That is something people do with Tunisian quite a bit to help prevent that curl. And like I say, to sort of combat the thickness of the stitch itself and create a drapier fabric. So one more time, I've just been picking up those front loops here, but now we've got one more stitch here at the end. So you can really get a good look at it. I haven't already poked a hook through it, so it isn't already sort of primed there. And sort of see those 2 loops there right at the end. I just want to send my hook basically straight through that stitch so that both of those loops end up on top of the hook there, and then I can pull up that loop. And now we have right back to the same number of loops. So we yarn over and pull through just the first one for that little turning chain, although we're not turning. Keep calling it a turning chain, it's out of habit. Our little chain 1, if you will, for height, and then yarn over and pull through 2 all the way across. So if you are familiar with linked stitches, like linked double crochet or linked treble crochet, you might see some similarities to what we're doing here. This is kind of like really, really tall linked stitches, worked one at a time. If you now are familiar with Tunisian, but you've been looking at linked stitches and feeling intimidated, you've pretty much learned linked stitches. It's very much the same technique, just sort of worked from a different perspective, if you will. But the working into these loops and pulling up other loops to make part of your stitch is the basis of a few other techniques in crochet as well. So that is just something else you can do with it. So now I've got a few rows made here, and I want to make sure we can get all our other techniques, but I want to do maybe one more row. Were there any other questions that I missed?
There is a question about the first row. If
Mhm.
you, on the first row, can you go over the last stitch on the left-hand side?
Okay. Well, on the first row, let's see, the very first, last stitch on the last row. Let me try again. Last stitch of the first row. There we go. That one would have been essentially the same as all the other stitches of that row. So let me just start a new little guy here. We're just going to make a few chains. So let's see where we're going to count off 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've made 5 chains. I've got the loop on my hook. I'm going to skip the chain closest to my hook and go under that back hump of each remaining chain. So again, there's the top of the chain. We want to flip it over and find where is that, those back humps sort of all in a row, not the back loop, but the underneath hump right there. So we skip the one closest to the hook, go to the next one, and pull up our loop. Go to the next one and pull up our loop. And go to the next one and pull up the loop. And here we are. This is the very last one, the very first row. It's the chain right next to the slip knot. And we want to do the exact same thing. We just go right under that back hump and pull up our loop. We don't have to do anything different right there because we're just working into the foundation chain. So we started with 5 chains. I had my active loop. I skipped a chain, and then I pulled up a loop from each of the remaining 4 chains. So now we've got 5 loops back on our hook. So then for the return pass, this is just, again, the foundation row, that very first row. We yarn over, pull through that first stitch, yarn over, and pull through 2 to finish. So actually the return pass for this one is the exact same. But the forward pass, we don't have to worry about that funny little end stitch because we're just working into those chains. But there you go. So when you go to count your stitches, it'll be easier on this one since we have fewer of them. I pull that up a little closer here, get the hook out of the way. We would count sort of those vertical sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a little easier too, because you've got all that daylight in the row you've just made to count those stitches. So let's see, I want to just check the time, 6:33. Were there any other questions here? I want to do one more row, so we've got a little bit more to work with to do our cross stitching rather.
A question here from Lynn. Since there are always 9 loops on the hook, with each row, did your foundation row consist of 9 chains?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
However many, there are, now this is getting a little bit more advanced, but you can with Tunisian crochet, of course, increase and decrease just as you can in crochet. So in the pattern, if you're following a pattern for something with shape, you might end up with different number of stitches, of course. But if you're working our simple dishcloth here, or a blanket, or a scarf, or anything where you want to have the same number of stitches, then yes, your chain should be the same number of loops that you pull up. And I did see a great question pop up as well. How do you count the rows themselves? Always, I think that's probably one of the hardest things for most new crocheters to learn. But with Tunisian crochet, you've got a couple options. Let's take a really close look here. I would not recommend trying to count it from behind because nope, look at that. No, thank you. You always want to count it from the front, but you can see sort of how there's a stitch there and then a stitch above it and then a stitch above that. So this would have been 4 rows that we've completed. You can also sort of see the horizontal. Oop, let me get that a little better centered there. You can see the horizontal across, and then you've got the vertical 1 stitch here. On Tunisian simple stitch, these vertical bars are probably sort of your telltale sign that that's the stitch that's been made. And you can count, it's easier to see in person, I think, probably than on camera. The camera wants to make it a little shiny, which is strange because this is cotton, but you can hopefully see 1, 2, 3, and then this would be your 4th row right there. That would be the easiest way to count those rows. So I do think it's actually a little bit easier to count your rows with Tunisian than knitting, and some crochet stitches depending. But again, depends on the Tunisian stitch you're making, of course, as well. But yeah, you can see from the back, it is a whole different beast. So we really want to make sure to help prevent our curl that we're using a good hook size or so up from what is recommended on the yarn label, and that we pull those stitches to the top of our fabric. Really, it's yarn, it can handle it. Give it a good yank when you get to each of those stitches, and that will help those stitches from ending up being sort of in front of your fabric and encouraging it to curl forward like that. Here we are at that final stitch again. So let's do that one more time here before we go over how to bind off. I'm going to pull up a little bit more yarn here. There we are. So there is one more stitch. We can look at that. Look at the stitches we've made and see we've got another stitch right there. instead of going under just that loop in front, we want to sort of turn it to the side and go under both of those loops right along that edge. And we can yarn over and pull under those 2 loops. So there you can see, now that we've done a few rows, how that gives a really nice edge there. And it's going to look just like your beginning edge, and it's going to look like your right-hand edge over here. And when we finish it off, it'll look like your final edge. So of course, like I say, you can always work a border around your Tunisian projects. You don't necessarily have to. They actually have really nice finished edges all on their own. So let's go ahead and do our final return pass for our little swatch here today. I'm going to start by yarning over and pulling through just that first stitch, and then yarn over and pull through 2 all the way across, just like making a really, really, really tall stitch, which if we turn it that way, you can kind of see how it kind of is. Here we go. And down to our last stitch. So when you have finished your Tunisian crochet project, then, a lot like knitting, you've got lots of different bind-off options. But the most common one, and the one used here, and probably the simplest one, is just a Tunisian simple slip stitch bind-off. Let's see. When you crochet, you always have to count. I'm having a hard time doing the double stitch. Like the double crochet stitch, do you mean you're having trouble with? We're not doing that in Tunisian today, but if I could get a little more clarification on the question, I will try and answer it. But let's now talk about binding off our Tunisian crochet. So we're going to do a slip stitch bind off, which is super, super simple. You can see we always do need to have a bind off because while we could break our yarn and just pull the end through like we do in crochet, that last row doesn't look like, like the rest of our yarns. We want to be doing Tunisian crochet. We want it to fill in and have this nice solid look. So just like our other stitches, we're going to be working under that same loop. The simple slip stitch bind off, when we do that, it's basically made in the same style of what ever stitches you were making. So you could use this bind off after making Tunisian knit stitches or purl stitches, but you just want to sort of go into those stitches however you were going into your other stitches, however you were making those other stitches. So to use the slip stitch bind off with our Tunisian simple stitch, we have our first loop on our hooks. We still skip that first one. We still go under that front loop and yarn over and pull up our loop. And I still want to give it a little bit of a tug, but then we can go ahead and just pull it through for a slip stitch. You can see how that flattens out the stitch and fills in those holes. Then we go right to the next one. Go right under that front loop, yarn over, pull up our loop, pull it up nice and high, and then go ahead and pull it through the previous loop. This is also a really great way to make slip stitches in regular crochet if you need to make slip stitches that you know you're going to have to work back into, because they're just a little bit looser there. So if you do need to or want to make a border or edging to your project, those slip stitches are going to be really nice to work back into. So then we go to the next one, just as before, yarn over and pull up our loop, give it a little pull, and then go ahead and pull through to finish the slip stitch. And we just continue all the way across, just like that. Alrighty, we pull up each loop and yarn over and pull through. Go to the next one, yarn over, give it a little tug, and pull through. So we don't have to really worry about counting our stitches or anything. You can see how the tops of those stitches, we're just making slip stitches now, gives that exact same look around all 4 edges, which is just such a nice thing about Tunisian crochet. So we get to that last one and pull through. And now I want to do the same thing, even though it's the last row, I do want to still go under those 2 loops there on the side. Oops, get centered again there. The 2 loops at the side to make sure we continue with our really nice edge. So for the last stitch, we go under those ones, yarn over, pull up that loop, give it another good little tug there, and yarn over and pull through to finish our swatch. So now we've made a tiny little Tunisian face scrubby. So we can go ahead and cut our yarn just as we normally do with any other project. You want to leave enough to weave in your ends, just like, again, just as you do in any other crochet project. You can go ahead and pull that end through to secure here. There we are. So now we can take a little bit better look at that fabric. This is the right side. This is the front side. This is the side we did all our stitching from. This is the back side. Now again, this is Tunisian simple stitch, and just like any other crochet or knit stitch, when you do different stitches, it's going to look different on the back side. You can see how this side really kind of gives you that knitted look. It sort of lets you see that combination really well. But this is officially the correct side. And now that we have a little bit of fabric here, let me grab that needle again, we can talk about how to use it for cross stitching on and why it makes such a great cross stitch fabric. Tunisian simple stitch, the one we've been doing here today, as you can see, if you look at here, each one of these include that left vertical bar and our 2 horizontal bars here. It makes a really nice square, just measurement wise. These are great squares, which makes them great for cross stitching on. So the 4 holes we want to look at, to sort of think of as the 4 corners of a stitch. I'm going to see if I can hold that open with one hand here so I can point with the other. Yes, the stitches can be dropped, like in knitting. A little bit more technical there, but yes, and sometimes you can do it in purpose, just like on knitting, if you want to get real fancy with it. Like I say, you can do all kinds of cabling and lace, really neat things with Tunisian as well. But let's look right here. We see there's a really nice hole right there, and then we want to make sure to jump to the other side of that bar, right there, and right there. So you can kind of think of each stitch as having 2 holes, but it makes a really nice square for cross stitching. Let me pull up that sample again. Right there. You can see we stay to the left of that bar there, and then we go to the left of the bar next to it. The left of that bar there, and the left of the bar next to it, and we get these really great squares. So if you have not cross-stitched before, there is, believe it or not, a right and a wrong way to do cross-stitching. It was one of the first fiber arts that I myself got to learn. I didn't have anybody in my family who knew how to knit or crochet, but cross-stitching I could figure out without YouTube way back when. I could figure that one out from the written instructions. So it is just a really great technique on its own, of course, but to add flair and all sorts of things to your crochet projects. With this technique, you could do the daisy as we see in the picture, but really the sky's the limit. You could take some really beautiful cross stitch patterns that you find online and just match your yarn to it and work it across a really basic tapestry of the Tunisian simple stitch and create some really beautiful custom projects. Now my yarn does not want to go on my yarn needle today. Let me try a different yarn needle. There we go. Okay, so to begin, get ready for cross stitching. I went ahead and cut a length of the contrasting yarn so we can see what we're doing. And I don't want to cut it too long. I don't recommend usually going over 30 inches or so because then you start getting tangles. But of course, it's whatever you're comfortable with. And then unlike crochet, where we kind of think of everything as going right to left, with cross stitch, we're going to go left to right. What we want to do is decide where we're going to start our pattern. And if you are following a pattern, let me pull up our great pattern here from Yarn Inspirations. You can see they've basically drawn out the whole dishcloth where each square is one of those stitches, and you can count in to see sort of where you would want to start, and we're going to start at the bottom left. So the bottom left stitch is where you want to start your cross stitching. Now, obviously I don't have a full-size washcloth here, so I'm going to just sort of pick a spot and say, I've counted in, and that's where I want to start. You can see we've got a really great little opening right there, to the right of that vertical bar, and at the bottom of that stitch. So I'm going to come up from underneath to the right side here, and I'm going to pull up my yarn a little bit. I'm going to leave a good tail there. I'll need to weave this in at the end, just like I weave in all my other yarn ends. I'm just going to hold on to that now to help keep it secure. Then I want to find that next stitch. I want to be making dashes, basically, like on a URL. We come across, find the hole at the top of the next stitch, still to the right of that vertical bar, and pull it through. There we are. So there's one. Now, instead of going back and making the cross, creating an X, depending on the pattern, you want to see how many stitches you're making. You come down to the hole underneath, pull that yarn on through, and then go up to the right. So we're creating all these little halves, the first half of our X, all the way across for however long our pattern calls for. If we need to skip some stitches, like for our daisy petals, you can see right here on the little diagram how you would need to skip a stitch there rather than doing one petal and then coming back and doing the next. You can simply, instead of coming back down here to start, you jump over one and make your next stitch. There we are. So that is what it should look like from behind. But in front, we've got the first half of our little X's. So to complete our X's, we want to go ahead and come down here, and then we go back across all our stitches. This is done because it uses actually a little bit less yarn than creating each X and then going on to the next X. And it creates a little bit smoother back of your work, a little bit less lumpiness. But we just come back basically and cross off those X's back the other direction. And of course, like I say, you can you make any design. You can make the daisy shown here in the pattern, or you could, draw a little heart. Anything that's pixelated could serve as inspiration. Any of those little grafgans or anything. If you've been looking at corner to corner crochet, but you're not into it, turn those little squares into this. Make a big field of Tunisian simple stitch, and then you can cross stitch on those colors to create the exact same design. So we've worked back across. You can see again what that looks like from the back. It's just usually a little bit neater. It's a little more obvious when you have the fabric and embroidery floss, but in yarn too, same principle holds. And then of course you can start again. We work up the next row. So maybe you need to start over one, or maybe you're working even. Just depends on the pattern you're making. Just gently pull those stitches through and then go up and to the right and make all the first half of the stitch and then come back for the second half. So if you wanted to, obviously you could do this in all different sorts of colors. Just leave some ends on the back to weave in, and you can really create some really fun designs. The daisy one shown here in the Tunisian Simple Stitch Dishcloth on Yarn Inspirations uses a couple different colors, but if you look behind it, you can see there are also some plain ones sort of in the pile that are using ombre yarn or variegated or self-striping. There's a couple different ones in there. And those are really great to look at. I unfortunately didn't have any of the ombre to demonstrate with today, but ombres and variegateds are really wonderful with Tunisian crochet. Maybe not for the cross-stitching part, but in general, it creates a really neat woven look, particularly with the Tunisian simple stitch. You can see on the picture here, it'd be a little easier if I go ahead and just pull it right up. You can see how those the different parts of the stitch, because we've got the forward pass and the return pass, you can get a really interesting look there. It really looks more like woven fabric from the right side than it does like knit or crochet. So you can see here, you can just skip right over the stitches you don't need to do. And we just want to keep it nice and smooth in back. But otherwise, that is cross stitching. So now you've also learned how to cross stitch. So if you haven't done that before, that's basically cross stitching in a nutshell. Same technique. You can do it on your crochet. There's probably some knit stitches that might lend themselves to this technique. Don't know them off the top of my head, but you can definitely get creative with it. And like I say, take any sort of corner to corner design, or, your kids' Minecraft drawings or pixel art, and you can basically use the little squares that Tunisian Simple Stitch makes to create whatever you want that design to be. And another idea here, for those who are really in love with this project tonight, but maybe don't have a great big hook, you can also take a couple of these dishcloths like we did tonight. Here's another way to handle that curling. This one is a hot pad. It's two of them, right side out, wrong side's on the inside. sewn together with just a little bit of contrasting back stitch seaming. And once you know it, now it's double thick. It makes a really great hot pad. And of course, all that curling is taken right out because it wanted to curl this way, but the backside wanted to curl that way. And by sewing them together, they straighten each other right on out. I did not even actually have to block this at all. I did see one question pop up while I was talking about cross stitching. Somebody said, how do you tell when to stop for a dishcloth? Well, whenever you want to, it's your dishcloth, but on the written pattern, they do say to stop after there. It says basically repeat from there, whoop, let me get that centered, until the work measures approximately 8 inches ending on a return pass. So that means after you've come back across, you've got just the one loop, you can go ahead and measure it. And if it's 8 inches long, then it should be according to the pattern. Ideally, for a washcloth, of course, you want it square. So if you're altering the size, whatever width you have, you can go ahead and stop when it's about that length. And then, of course, you do want to work your bind off row. For finishing off the cross stitching, it's, just as any other crochet project or any cross stitching, really, you just need to cut your ends and then weave in your ends like you normally would. Were there any other questions I could answer?
Let me double check. I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay. Well, we've got about 8 minutes left. You guys have been a very quiet group. So, yeah, I'm seeing some good comments. Like I say, you can really get creative, obviously, beyond washcloths. You can have a lot of fun. Definitely, try the different hook sizes too. You can try the same stitch with this hook, try the same stitch with an M or an N Tunisian hook, and it's really going to open up those stitches and create a whole different feeling for that fabric. For weaving in the ends, I would do it basically the same way I would any other project. Let me pull down here. I've got a lot of extra yarn left, so let me cut this off because that's way too much to try and weave in here. But for the cross stitching, that one's going to be a little harder because, you don't have exactly a whole lot of the same color of stitches. But I like to just run that through that fabric as best you can. The nice thing about Tunisian fabric's thickness is that it makes it easier to hide those ends. It is a really thick fabric, so I think it is a lot easier to weave in your ends, honestly, with Tunisian because you've got just a little bit more fabric to hide it in. These were sewn together with a backstitch seam, but you could crochet different layers together. You can crochet different pieces together. You could do a really fun patchwork blanket, make different squares in different colors. Then you don't even have to get the big long hook. You can make a bunch of little ones. And then when you sew those together, that's going to straighten that out all together. The yarn that I used was Lily Sugar and Cream. It is the exact same yarn you can use for every other project. There's not such a thing really as crochet yarn or knitting yarn. There is just yarn. So you can Tunisian crochet with it. You can Tunisian crochet with raffia or rope if you wanted to, if you could find a big enough hook. This hook in particular is a Susan Bates. Let me get that one straightened out there. So this is a really great hook to get started with, and they come in some of the more popular sizes here. Changing colors in the same row, similar to crochet. You can do it both on the forward pass and on the return pass. Let me see here if I can pull up a little swatch that we can do a little bit of color changing on, since we do have a little bit of time. Let me find something I can work off of here. So it's just our little guy. But we can talk about what happens. You can change colors. Like I say, you can change color in the middle. You can change color at the end. You can change color on the forward pass, the return pass. Just like crochet, you've got lots and lots of options. Let me get my new color end here. I've got so many little things in front of me. I don't want to knock off the table here. There we go. So yeah, the difference between the Tunisian hook and a regular crochet hook is the length. You can see it's hard for me to get the whole thing on screen here. Or it might be a shorter hook with a cord on the end attached to it, but you're not going to see a thumb grip on it. You can see the whole length of what there is really nice and straight. Just like a knitting needle, you want that for the size of your loops, because the size of your hook determines the size of your loops. And you want those loops really nice and all sort of the same size here. So let's talk about changing colors. I could go ahead and change colors in this second stitch but that's going to give me a different colored first stitch, which might be fine. You can just pull up with a new color here and start working in that new color. If you wanted to have a clean color change, if you will, you would need to make that final yarn over and pull through with the new color. Like when you're changing colors with crochet and you want to change colors for that next row, you might finish the last stitch of the previous row with your new color. So let me get that centered here. We've got both those last two loops. I'm finishing my return pass here. I just need to yarn over and pull through two, but I'm going to go ahead and do it with my new color. There we are. Drop those ends here out of my way. Lots of little ends to deal with, so it's a little fiddly, but it can definitely be done here. There we go. So now I can just go in on that second stitch and yarn over with the new color. I can just leave those other colors hanging, or the end there hanging out and back. Either pick it up again later or to cut off and weave in later. Let's take a couple stitches here. I want to do that same thing at the end, get into those two loops there at the end. You can see now if I yarn over and pull through one, and then yarn over and pull through two, that's going to give us basically a really nice striped effect. On the other hand, since we've got just a few minutes here, I'll see if I can squeeze in another little part of the demo here. Okay, so on the other hand, if I wanted to bring up that color at the end here, get ourselves centered here, bring this color back in, I could do it on the return pass, and it's going to give me a really different look. So we pull through just the one, drop that end. So many ends now. There we go. Then we can yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two to finish it off. Of course, we've got all our ends being a little crazy here, but you can see that's going to give you another different look. So you can really just have some fun with it. You can do it in the middle if you did want to have sort of a color blocking that direction. It can be done as well. You just want to leave that yarn hanging out there so you can come back and grab it when you come back the other direction. But basically just like standard crochet, or I'm sure for that matter even knitting, there's lots of different places you can introduce that new yarn to get different effects. And like I say, it's a lot of fun to play with, and just the way that the stitches themselves are constructed will really allow you to have a lot of fun with those stitches and do a lot of different things. So we can see our little swatch that we made right there with our cross stitching on it. You've got lots of different options for color play there. So you've got the basic stitch. Just try pulling through with new colors when you're making a different part of the stitch and see what happens. I think that's the best way to explore with Tunisian. And then of course you can make larger projects and keep going. If you want to make things that are obviously longer or wider rather than your hook, then you will need to look for the hooks where it's a shorter hook with a cord attached. And then at the end of the cord, it should have a stopper as well. Kind of an interesting combination of a crochet hook and a cable knitting needle. So we can go ahead and come back to the other camera. I think we are officially out of time, but thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed learning about Tunisian. Like I say, if you know a little bit about crochet or a little bit about knitting, it's a whole new thing you can just kind of automatically do once you learn just the basic stitches here. It's just a matter of, like any other crochet stitch, knowing where to insert your hook so you can yarn over and pull through. Then before you know it, you're off and running. There are lots of other Tunisian stitches out there as well. This is just the beginning. You can cable, you can make lace. It is just a lot of fun. So again, this was the Lily Sugar and Cream Tunisian Simple Stitch Dishcloth. I'm Tamara Kelly from Moogly. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night, everybody.